Welcome to TM Talks. This is a weekly series for meditators on personal development and the growth of higher states of consciousness. My name is Mario Orsatti. Our guest today is Dr. Ani Kalayjian. Dr. Kalayjian is an Armenian-American psychologist, author, international consultant, researcher, and poet. She was born in Syria, and at the age of 16, she immigrated to America with her family. She initially earned a nursing degree from Long Island University and later earned her master's and doctoral degrees at Columbia University. In 1988, she founded an organization whose mission was to advance national and international understanding of the generational and intergenerational effects of traumatic experiences such as genocide, earthquake, and war. In 1990, Dr. Kalayjian expanded her nonprofit into becoming the Association for Trauma Outreach and Prevention. Her organization is known by the name Meaningful World. It's an INGO, an international non-governmental organization affiliated with the United Nations Department of Global Communication. Her organization focuses on trauma, humanitarian aid, human rights violations all around the world. Dr. Kalayjian has published 6 books and more than 100 articles in international journals. Her latest book was released in March. It's called A Journey of Empowerment, Healing, and Transformation, and includes photographs of 35 years of her humanitarian relief efforts, as well as her poetry and many uplifting quotations. It's a beautiful book. In 2016, Dr. Kalayjian received the Outstanding Psychologist of the Year award from the American Psychological Association's Trauma Division. This past year, she and members of her staff learned the Transcendental Meditation technique. Dr. Ani Kalayjian, welcome to TM Talks. We are very honored to have you here as our guest.
Thank you so much, Mario. This is an honor for me, and I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to both discuss and meet with you, as well as meet virtually the audience. Thank you.
I've mentioned in your bio, just in general about your work, but how did you start this work? You started with a nursing degree, then went on for PhD in psychology. Can you just tell us generally what's your work all about?
Yes. In one word, it's about healing the self and
Beautiful.
Healing the family, the community. I could, as early as age 7, 8, I could palpate the sadness around me when I came back from school. I saw my elders, mother, neighbors, they were kind of looking through papers with like yearning and worry and excitement, and I was like, who died? What happened? Why you look all sad? And they were like, go do your homework. Nobody died. You don't need to worry. They were trying to protect me, but I could feel something was going on. They were looking for the relatives from Ottoman Turkish genocide that they still they weren't able to find them. So sometimes they thought looking into the papers, they could get some hints where their relatives are. And in fact, just about 15 years ago, we discovered our relatives that escaped to Argentina and Venezuela. and I was able to meet them. I heard the stories from my mom, but she didn't know where they were. She knew they were in Latin America. They received one letter and then the letter stopped. So the journey is about self healing. I could feel the pain. I would go to the bathroom and cry because I didn't want to make them upset, because I thought maybe I'm crazy, the one feeling the sadness and mixed anger and pain. But they saying that they're okay. I knew they weren't okay. And then I was also sandwiched between two brothers. The other brother and sister were much older, 10, 19 years older than us. So they had already left the house. So it was two brothers and me in the middle. And they were able to ride bicycles, go outside, have friends, but I was not allowed to do that, especially white girls, pretty white girls. Now I'm all into tanning. So I remember people squeezing my cheeks and saying, "Oh, how white I was, how beautiful I would look like a moon." They mentioned these are things I remember. And I didn't like the strangers touching and squeezing and pinching my cheeks. So all that kind of culminated then when we came to America, because my elder brother, that's 19 years older than I, he was Armenian apostolic priest. So he was invited to come to Chicago, to Illinois, to they needed an Armenian priest in that church. So he became a citizen of United States, and then Israeli war was really bad in Syria. We had to run to sub basements with the mice and had no bread, no food, and our windows would shatter because here, when America goes to war, we're like sitting mighty and just watching on television. We're not feeling, we're not hearing, we're not experiencing. But in Syria, it's so small. Anything happens in Lebanon, in Israel, in Palestine, in Syria, and then Syria was always engaged or involved or whatever against Israel. They were always at each other. And when the planes went so low, our windows would shatter literally. And even though we had put the starch and white or blue, light blue paint so that they can't see the light, I don't know. But we still got hit. And it was very tough for 5, 6, 7 years of age being in that situation. And the mice were so hungry, like we're like feeling bad to give a little crumb to the mice too, while in the sub basements. So when my brother became a US citizen, and they were afraid that my brothers have to go to the war, it was not a choice. So he got the whole family, and we came here with green cards. And that was our salvation. And that's when I found out about the genocide, because they wouldn't even talk about it for years after the genocide from 1915 genocide. They were scared to talk about it because Ottoman presence was there. So they couldn't trust like who was really Ottoman, and who was Syrian. Syrian were very hospitable towards us, opened the doors, and they were also struggling under Ottoman. Even, I just returned from Bulgaria. They were under 500 years of Ottoman oppression as well. And they were telling us a lot of negative stories from their generational trauma, as well as in Romania. So all that culminated in I kept on yelling to my mother, saying, "That's not fair. That's not right. Why is that my brothers they're able to go and play and be normal, and I'm basically secluded in the house. I have to learn crochet and needlework and things like that, because especially beautiful kids were targeted, girls especially were targeted by the Ottoman Empire. They were forced into slavery and sexual exploitation, and um, in harems, etc. So, of course, my mother would like brush it off and say that it's okay, they're boys, they don't know. And I would flip out saying, "What do you mean they don't know? They should know then, they should learn. Why would I know?" And they don't. One of them is older than me. So they kept saying, "Oh, she's difficult. She's going to be either in prison or dead if she stays here."
Mm.
Because the original idea was, "Oh, let's get her married." Because even at age 12, I had suitors come with their parents, men like 30 years old, 35. I was 12. I was developed very, very quickly with breast. So they thought I was already 16, and 16 is an age. As soon as you get your period, you're supposed to get married kind of expectation.
Yeah.
And thank God my mom was like, "No, she has to go to school. She's not ready for marriage." So she put her foot down, and she didn't, force me to marry there, because the other like creative idea they got is that to marry me there, and my sister is already married there, that they would come here with the boys, and two sisters would stay there to help one another or be a company to one another. But I
Mm.
didn't want to, and I wanted to go to university. So that's the kind of long and a short story what made me
Mm.
commit to a healing society or a community where people do not have to go through that generational trauma, that gender-based violence or discrimination, and human rights violations, fear everywhere, fear from Ottoman, fear from Syrian government, because even in a private Armenian school, we were not allowed to learn the Armenian history. We were kind of censored. We were allowed two language classes a week and one religion. And in that religion class or language, we had handouts to share some of the historical past. And inspectors will barge into the class without notice. Inspectors would be Syrian, Muslim, Arab inspectors will come just to check and see if
Mm.
we are adhering to their curriculum.
Mm.
And we had to right away shuffle and hide and pretend that we're just studying language now. So it was a lot to negotiate at a very young age. And the general community in Syria was hospitable, but they were not as hardworking, education focused, and literate like Armenians. Even though they came from nothing after the genocide, they quickly worked day and night. And some Armenians even went to Paris, Oxford, England, anywhere to get more education and come back and be professors or company heads. And jewelry was run by the Armenians, the rug business, so they became kind of the heads of the community, and even the government trusted and wanted the best of the Armenians for their own positions in the government of Syria. So
Dr. Kalayjian, I was one of the things I loved reading up on your interviews, your book. One of the first things that I noticed was that you brought out something that is not very well understood in society, and that is, this is a quote from you from an interview: trauma that is not transformed will be transferred to the next generations.
yes, yes. And then we learn from the indigenous people, they knew this a long time ago, that it passes on 7 generations. In fact, if you are in New York, if you visit, please visit the Cathedral St. John the Divine. And in the field, you would see the human huge silhouette, and then the smaller, smaller. And then at the end, the red dot, which is the unborn fetus, showing the 7 generations and how it trauma, just like diabetes, arthritis, and cancer and other
Yeah,
illnesses, is transmitted to other generations. And the issue is that if we don't take responsibility, we're going to bleed on people that didn't cause our pain,
interesting, isn't it?
which is
Yeah,
what we're seeing in Israel now.
yeah.
Unfortunately, people, the that fear and the trauma, it really generates such emotions that we are besides ourselves, and we're thinking we're protecting ourselves, but that at the same time, you're destroying another nation because of your past Holocaust trauma.
For those I need to mention, for those who've come in late, we're speaking today to Dr. Ani Kagan. Dr. Kalayjian is an Armenian-American psychologist, author, international consultant, researcher, and poet. She's the founder and director of Meaningful World, which is formerly known as the Association for Trauma Outreach and Prevention. Dr. Kalayjian, how do you feel that, I know you learned Transcendental Meditation this past year. Has it had an effect on you personally that you can recognize?
Most definitely, it has an effect on me, and I feel it. I'm still a beginner, like my brother said. Just because I saw him a week after we finished with our training, so he goes, "Okay, just take it easy. Just because you finished the training." Until you have meditated at the minimum for 3 years. Don't tell anybody you're a TM practitioner, meditator, because you're just touching the beginning, scratching the surface. So I'm looking forward to the cumulative effect. Um, but I am definitely feeling the positive impact even within less than a year. Yeah.
Now, what appealed to you about TM? I mean, there's so many different modalities, and I'm sure your toolbox as a trauma psychologist is filled with so many different things.
Right.
Why spend this time with this particular meditation? I'm saying it.
Well, one of the things is that our 7-step integrative healing model, we start with assessment, first step, release, catharsis, sharing the emotions, second step. Third step is empathy and validation. And fourth step is the rising up, the post traumatic growth, learning a new lesson, saying, aha, okay, I'm not a victim, I'm a victor. Then step 5 is collecting new resources. Now that we have this shift and new lesson, of what other things we need to learn. So we share resources, and then connection with ecology and Mother Earth that we don't see in a lot of psychological models. And
Yeah.
then the last step we use usually physical movement, and then we end with meditation. We used to use mindfulness meditation or the countdown or focus on the breath or 10 breaths or 20 breaths and 500 breaths, um, that kind of thing. And then when I'm not sure which came first, but um, TM from Beatles and music and all that, it was kind of appearing to me that it was like a secret thing that I'm not capable of, that it's a lot of work to get to that training. I tried a few times 10 years ago. It was really people here, the ones that I connected at the time. Now I am with, connected with more rather friendlier people, but they kind of always made it very difficult to get to. Either the course was like 5 grand, or the times were not, I had to fly to somewhere else. It was not convenient. So I had tried in the past decade couple of times, and it didn't really work in my time schedule or the price and etc. And I'm not sure how it really worked that I met David. And actually, no, I invited some people to our healing party, and one of them is a meditation teacher in New Jersey. So he told us, "Oh, you're going on a mission? Oh, we have a team there, and we have a team here, and we have the international team." And I didn't know about that. So that kind of really was made it more possible, because we travel a lot for missions, and it's a lot of work, emotional work, and time commitment. We start 3 months before, sometimes 6 months before the mission, working on the mission, and 3 months after, we start working on Uganda and Armenia, and it's been already 2 months. So when they said, "Oh, there is a trainer in Armenia. You are going to Armenia," and we said, "Great, so let's set it up." We went a couple of days before the mission, and we did the training, and we were able to invite people, psychologists who were working with the war veterans from the Azeri ethnic cleansing of the Armenians in Artsakh. And this way, not only uh, we trained ourselves, our team that went there, but local people too, which was very meaningful to us to share this, make it sustainable so then they can continue practicing and sharing it with others. Like when we were in Uganda just last month, we were able to invite the East Africa region director, John, who was able, in our name, Meaningful World, give a whole month of free TM classes in July, in the month of July last month. So, and now we're working with Palestine, because our next mission, hopefully, when the bullets kind of stop shelling and things is a little more peaceful, we like to help. The Palestinian community has been suffering a lot, and they don't have many psychologists or TM, but we were able to connect with the TM director and Basma, and we have done groups together, and she's going to collaborate with us so that we can give this the women and the families who lost their children in the war there, they can get support. So it has been tremendously helpful, not just for me, but I feel like I am more um, advantaged in this because I am able to share it with others who are in dire situations that they can't get any other help, and they don't have the finances, so they actually need the free options for them so that they can spread this modality with a lot of people. And we share the research too that really makes people like kind of buy into it, and that even 3% of the population, when they meditate, the violence has been proven to decrease tremendously, and the productivity has been increased even in the non-meditative neighboring countries.
Yeah.
So this is a wonderful way for us to, integrate. Anyway, we call our model integrative model. So we really try to integrate different methodologies, different kinds of meditations into our model, and we kind of let people know the research too, because that's how people are kind of their eyes open and their hearts open too, and their minds expand, and they want to do the right thing for themselves and for others, because you're committing for your community at large.
Well, I've been working for the last 8 years with teachers who work for the David Lynch Foundation, which helps to fund programs for at-risk groups, underserved groups here in the US, but all around the world. And I just love the campaign they have going there to teach thousands of women during the war in Ukraine to practice TM as a basis for not only, as you say, transforming trauma, but having that post-traumatic growth that whenever the war ends, they're going to be strong and resilient to help the country get back on its feet.
Right.
And if I connect sometimes to their group meditations with hundreds of women, they are so thankful to have it. And as you know, sometimes contrast is great when you've experienced trauma. Just a little of this inner wakefulness, inner peace that comes in deep meditation, in our transcendental meditation, it's so enlivening, it's so empowering. So it's needed all around the world, and we're glad to have now teachers in all these countries to help
Yes.
with our project.
Yes, that is such a uniting factor too, because I wouldn't have met John in Uganda if it wasn't TM. And through him, we were able to mobilize a lot of people who didn't know about John, about TM, even people that were living actually a block away from him. They were like, really? Oh, I didn't know you do TM. And it is such a powerful tool to bring communities in cohesion and in insight, and into another way of valuable togetherness.
Well, I think it's especially wonderful that for you personally and for your team, the team members who have decided to learn TM, they
Mm-hmm.
have this as a tool because helping people can be very tiring. And
It
it is vicarious trauma. It's a phenomenon.
definitely, definitely. And I have a proof of that too, because what happened in the Armenia team, we were very what shall I say, disciplined. They were mature people. They listened, and after each day, we have to debrief, process, and meditate. Those are must. And then everybody's left to take a journal and to release it in a writing format.
Uh-huh.
But in Uganda, they were 24, 25, the members that were with me, and they were rebellious. They were like, oh, we're okay. Yeah, fine. Oh, yeah, it was okay. Like they were fighting me in debriefing, processing. As soon as we went in the car, usually we use the car time, traveling time, 1 hour, 2 hours in processing, so that we don't bring it to the hotel or to our space, and do the debriefing while we're eating and have acid reflux. So these, as soon as they went in the car, they plugged their ears. I'm like, every time I discuss, what's, I'm sorry. Like, I'm like, you can't do that. Please don't do that. But they would not, they were rebellious, and it was a dynamics where they got kind of, they were close to age. So they were like acting the same, and irresponsible and undisciplined. And after 4 days of me getting exhausted, I said, Ani, focus on the mission. I'm not going to change them. I mean, in my 34 years, Mario, I never experienced it like that. But I said it's always important for me to have my energy enough for the mission. And we're going to discuss this later. And sure enough, the last day, when we all parted, they all had to take different flights. And I got a call from the most resistant person saying that I am so bad. I had a panic attack. I thought my plane was leaving without me. I could not talk. People were asking my name. I couldn't even express my name. I had a severe panic attack. And I was like, this is what happens when you don't do the work when it's needed. It's going to take over you and force you to address what's happening. And
Yeah.
sure enough, she was very apologetic. But
Well, as a good, as you're a parent in that situation, and you can offer, and, they can resist, but it's great that you planted the seeds. This is the way.
right,
And they're young, so
right.
lessons have to be learned, by everyone, not only those you're serving, but also your staff.
Yes, yes, yes.
I would like to play a video, if you don't mind, of one of your Armenia staff who learned TM.
Sure.
Okay, Mike, let's play that video.
I think that in my case, there were two. It was the stress and anxiety that were caused by the situation, because I didn't know what was going to happen. There was no certainty. Every day we would get worse and worse news about what the future holds. And I found myself at a place where, on the one hand, I had to help people. On the other hand, my anxiety level was very high. I was very stressed, and I didn't know how to help them when I need help myself. So for me, TM was something to actually be able to, again, go back mentally and psychologically, and in a sense also spiritually, to that calm and resourceful state of being when I know that I am now okay, that nothing is bothering me as it would bother before. I think, again, if I give it a percentage, or if I rank it in a range, I would say that before TM, the stress and anxiety, I would rank them and give them a mark of 8 or 9. And after we had consecutive TM sessions, they definitely went down to like 2 or 3.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes, definitely.
Everyone, we can't get out of the world we're in,
Yes.
whether it's New York or New Jersey or California or Palestine or any, there is going to be a pressure on psychological health. I was impressed that one of the things you mentioned, I don't think that people recognize. I, I will summarize it. You said, are organizations that help people who are in desperate circumstances don't offer enough for the mental side of the suffering. But do you see, I would imagine through your inspiration and other organizations' inspiration that are focusing on the mental side, that it's becoming more common. Is that right? We would hope it would start to become more common. Focus on mental health.
It is definitely, we've seen it become more common in Guatemala, in Haiti. When we went there in Haiti in 2010, right after the devastating earthquake that killed 278,000 people, it was a little bit foreign for them, or a little bit like strange. We actually need food and shelter, they were saying. And then after we kept going every 6 months, and we formed the Meaningful World chapter there. So now they're running their own workshops and classes, and they not only see it necessary, but they use it like a preventive model too, preventive approach, without waiting for them to get another, you know, violence or earthquake or hurricane. They have the programs ongoing to empower people ahead of time, which is really what we like to see. So the same in Uganda, they were thinking that, God, if you are sad, I would call on Jesus. If you're frustrated, you say a hallelujah. If you have loss, you say thank God. And afterwards, I was crying. I was saying, if you have a flat tire, do you go to see your priest? You pray? And they all started cracking up. They realized what they were doing. They were channeling everything to God. Let me give that to God and Jesus, because I don't know what's happening, kind of situation. So they all said that they will go to get their tire fixed to a auto shop. So I said, yes, that's the way. We have the physical. If you have a sore throat and tonsillitis, you don't go to your priest, you go to your doctor to get antibiotics. The same way for emotional issues, you go to a psychologist or social worker, because they don't have a lot of psychologists in many of the countries we work in, like Haiti, Guatemala, Burundi, Congo, even Palestine doesn't have a lot of psychologists, but next door Israel has, thousands of them. So that's the situation. We have to be careful. Like when we work in Pakistan, there was the first time in 1998, they said there was only 3,000 psychiatrists. I'm sorry, 300 psychiatrists for like 50, 60 million people. And then we started the mental health movement, community centers, master psychology programs, etc. So now there are psychologists as well. We have to be always cautious what we recommend. If they don't have the trained practitioners, we can't say clinical psychologists. Okay, where am I going to find clinical psychologists? So there are, in Pakistan, there were people called family mobilizers, community leaders, those people who have empathy and who have some educational courses they've taken. So we train those. The same in Sierra Leone and Sri Lanka after the tsunami. There was no psychologist in many of the areas that we worked in that was mainly lived by Tamils, because the government was like, Tamils are terrorists. We're not going to supply any support to them. So we worked with the Tamils, and they called them family mobilizers. These are women in general, very few men, who were compassionate, who had some education, and we gave them more education specific in mental health, in importance of empathy, role modeling how to do the empathy, because in the beginning they thought it was just giving advice and tell them what to do, what not to do.
Well, you know, we're fortunate now that TM has become so mature, become a part of mainstream life here in America,
Yes.
that we're now able to have TM spread all over the world and create more groups, large groups that can create an influence on whole countries. So, and the world. That, we hope, will help support your efforts.
Yes, yes, yes. In
And
fact, we
it's
have
wonderful that this has happened, this collaboration between Meaningful World. What a wonderful name you've created for your organization.
Well, it was thanks to my mentor, Viktor Frankl.
Oh, I was going to ask you
I took a
about,
course with
I
him.
know, I was going to ask you, I know you studied with Viktor Frankl. People, are they aware, Viktor Frankl, who he is?
Yes, yes. And if you haven't read, I would really, really highly recommend. It's a small book, but it's transformative. Man's Search,
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's
Such
Search
a
for Meaning.
great.
So, because when I wrote my dissertation at the Columbia, I had not read it. It was my master's, actually. It wasn't my dissertation, my thesis. And I was reprimanded by my advisor, saying that you're cheating, you're plagiarizing Viktor Frankl. And I'm looking at his face and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know who Viktor Frankl is. And it was apparently everything I wrote about meaning of suffering. And it was exactly from the book. So I made it my commitment, my dream to study with him. And he was coming to California, to Stanford. And I took extra classes with him. And he was so funny. And it's like he could hardly see. If he had to look for the word, he would put it like this next to his eyes. He could not see. He was like really blind. But he was 96 when I met him and took his classes. And he had just returned from a mountain climbing field trip or expedition.
Huh.
His wife his wife and whole family were killed in the Holocaust, but he had a younger wife at the time who was helping with his notes, so he doesn't have to put it like so close to his and I was really suffering at the time because we had just completed our research on working with the survivors of Ottoman Turkish genocide, and we wanted to find out what kind of strength, what did they learn, and what made them cope all these years. Um, and it was very emotional. So we were every interview we were coming together, crying, processing, etc. And all the survivors, it's like close to 100, they were very angry about denial. of the genocide. At the time, that was in 85, 86, there was only like 20 countries had acknowledged the genocide. Now about 38 countries acknowledge, and mainly US, thank God, acknowledges it. So at that time, I wanted to kind of reach out. I said, what can I do to help my people? And he looked at me and he said, with his Viennese accent, you have to help them forgive like this. And I'm like, forgive? But how do you forgive something that nobody acknowledges? Nobody knows about it. None of the Americans knew about it. So he goes, how long you plan to wait? And it was like aha moment. That's right. Why are we waiting? Why do we wait for the quote unquote the enemy to acknowledge? I started these healing groups to validate one another, so we don't wait for the enemy. Then you're just dependent on something that's not going to change. They're not going to bring, oh, I'm sorry, on a silver platter. Still denying it. The Turkey is still denying it. So it was an aha moment for me, and that's how Meaningful
Beautiful.
World name comes from, that because it's all about making meaning and making
Beautiful.
positive meaning about what you experience. And you cannot jump to the meaning before you heal yourself. So that's what we emphasize. People start like putting the religious guilt trip. Oh, you have to forgive. God is going to burn you to hell or something. I said, no, stop. None of that. You have infected wound. You can't cover it up. It's going to go septic all in your body. You got to squeeze that thing, infection first out, the poison, get it out. We don't have any organs to store that. That's it.
Mhm.
There's no other option. So then people start going through the process and the steps so that you first heal the wound, then you forgive and find a
Beautiful.
deeper meaning in what happened. And then,
That reminds me so much of this quote by Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism.
yes,
He said, if you want to remove the darkness in the world, remove everything that is dark within yourself.
right,
The greatest gift you can give to the world is your own self-transformation.
exactly.
And Dr. Kalayjian, you are an example of someone dedicated to helping people realize the steps that they need to take. I know you work with the most difficult situations of mental health, trauma, people who are traumatized, paralyzed by trauma. But you do it in such a graceful and wise way. You're truly an example of a person who's not only got wisdom, but you work to share it. And
Yes,
for that, we honor you. I will support you all around the world with everything you're doing to give you the tool of TM so it can help lay a foundation, be
right.
a support. As Dr. Norman Rosenthal, the psychiatrist who's the discoverer of seasonal affective disorder and has written a wonderful book about TM, Transcendence, he calls TM a keystone habit. It helps to support all these other things that we try to do by removing stress and awakening the comprehension of our minds to the bigger picture, to giving us a bigger perspective. I want to thank you so much. I'm sorry the time, we could go on, couldn't we?
Yes,
This time of TM Talks is too short.
yes.
Thank you so much for
Oh,
taking the time. I know you just came back from Bulgaria.
yes.
You're all over the world. You never stop. Boy, you are the energizer battery in human form.
The
Keep yourself
pleasure.
now, keep up this meditating and don't think, well, I have to do it for 3 years in order to get to, no, it's a respite every day. I know you're busy.
Yes.
I know you have a million things you could be
Yes.
doing,
Yes.
but get that deep rest
Oh,
and,
yes.
and the effects will grow over time.
Definitely. Definitely.
So
I've
you
already
deserve it.
seen, I've already felt and observed and seen it within me and within the ones around me that are practicing it in a disciplined, regular, consistent way. And that's the only way, we have to. I talk about discipline a lot. Maybe another time we will discuss that. But I like to end with what we love to say at Meaningful World. When one helps another, both become stronger. So thank
Beautiful,
you for your help and for making me stronger in my practice.
beautiful, beautiful. So nice meeting you.
So nice meeting you as well. Have a
All right.
beautiful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
And thank you all for joining us this week on TM Talks.
Thank you.
And let's thank those who make TM Talks possible. Mike Perez, who's always on the scene to make the technical side of what we do possible, but also all of the meditators at Maharishi Foundation USA who are creating events online for free for meditators, including what comes up next, which is the daily group meditation with Mr. Bob Roth.
Oh.
So let's do that with Bob. And we're so pleased that Mike makes it available, that daily group meditation. It's recorded and played every hour. Isn't
Oh.
that something?
I
And
need
Bob
to
is the
connect with
author.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the head of the David Lynch Foundation. I'll
Oh,
send you the connecting information,
oh, wonderful.
honey,
Thank you.
so you can get
Please.
with that anywhere in the world you are. Every hour, you
I
just get on
appreciate
Zoom
that. Yes.
and connect with it.
That would help so much. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, my pleasure. And that's a good reminder for everyone else. All right, all the best.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye-bye.